So, when Sunisha, when you guys got in touch and wanted me to talk about the importance of speaking up, it took me back to sort of, what was that most sort of momentous time, or what is etched in my memory is when I first felt like I had spoken up. And this is when I was in high school, so I presume, similar age group as many of you. And we had, a student had been expelled from school, and there was a lot of, there was sadness and grief and anger generally in the student body, losing a friend and kind of not being able to do anything about it. And so a lot of kind of that disgruntled and unhappy energy being experienced. But I think basically we didn't know what we could do, or we didn't know, what else was possible other than just talking about it to each other. And our math teacher, Mr. Caro, sort of said, what's going on, and if you guys have something to say, then you have to say it. What you're doing, just hanging around and with sorry faces, or being angry, and or like talking in corners but not quite doing anything about it. So do something about it. And that kind of got all of us to organize as a student body, and we staged a walkout. So this was the entire high school kind of got together. Of course, it was peaceful, but we got together and we marched. And I remember that moment as just being completely electrifying, to have found suddenly a voice, found a community, found some kind of space to be able to do that, and to know, suddenly have discovered that I was able to do that. I think that to me, I can still, like I said, is that's so deeply etched in my memory. It didn't kind of result in the expulsion being rolled back, unfortunately. But what it did do is it got the administration to notice us and to recognize that the student body was an important stakeholder in this decision. And we were not involved, we were not included, we were not consulted, we were not even informed as a group. It was a decision that was just thrown out at us. And I think that changed a little bit of how the administration saw us, and allowed us to kind of occupy a space by pushing back a little bit, that then became much more available to us on behalf of the school. So this whole idea of speaking up, whether it's in your school, whether it's a classroom, in your drawing room, on the streets, in a boardroom, wherever it may be, I think it's very key. It gives you a sense of I think discovering that voice gives us all power and agency. And the discovery of that voice, I think, is a journey. And that is something that, I connect back to the work that I've done thereafter. I work now with youth workers, which is people who work with young people. But I have spent a lot of my years working directly with young people as well. I had my own journey of volunteering and discovering myself and my world, and what change meant to me. But in the work that I started doing when I started working with young people, I think that whole connect of self and society became very, very clear to me. And the fact that they were not and cannot be seen as independent from each other. Our own transformation is as key to changing the world as changing the world itself is. And in our own transformation is where we are often finding who we are and finding that voice and discovering that agency. And I think I had the privilege of then working with maybe hundreds of young people and being part of that journey with each one. But also, while I was doing that, I was fairly young myself. I was in my early 20s. And I think in a big way, I found my own voice, as I was working with them. And my own ability to speak up transformed quite a bit, because speaking up, I think, involves a great deal of learning and capacity building. It's not just about, like, it's easy to say finding your voice. And I'm sure those of you who've gone out there and done it know how hard it is and how challenging it can be. We live in a very, very hierarchical and patriarchal society. Young people spaces are not available for young people to just come in and step into. We have to push those boundaries, and that can be difficult to do. But to do that, there's hard work to be put in, and I think that hard work is something that every young person must do. It involves developing empathy. Empathy needs curiosity. It needs you to want to know about your world. It needs you to want to know about people around you. It needs you to want to know about people who are different from you. And when you get onto those journeys of discovering the world, I think you use all of that to then build your voice and to then have the power to influence others and transform spaces. And I think that's maybe what I found most meaningful also in the work that I have done over the last 18 years with young people and with youth workers. And I think we sort of speak, in the context of, and I don't know if he's still there, my colleague Akshit is there, so actually maybe I'll invite him also to share something. But we've been also talking about how, in India especially, and all of you, I think mostly are from here, or at least are familiar with the context in India, which is young people form the largest population right now. So everyone is talking about young people, and everyone, and there is this great, I think, hope and even pressure on young people to solve all our problems. But we're a bit shy about allowing young people to have the leadership and to take decisions. So young people are celebrated for the passion and the energy and the potential, but not necessarily for just what they can do right now and what they can, and the wisdom that they bring. And I think there is a role then for both young people and others. I don't know, it's always difficult, adults, whether we call them adults or we call them grown-ups, so just those who are beyond the spectrum of young people. But there is a great deal of importance, I feel, in building intergenerational solidarities for young people and others to work together, because there is also value in the wisdom that and experience that others bring, but there is a need for us to not just invite young people to the table and hear them, but to actually receive, with absolute kind of openness, everything that young people bring. So we've also talked about framing something called the youth duties and rights. So just like there was a time when child rights needed to be framed, human rights existed, but child rights needed to be framed because there was that moment in the world where we needed to look at it with that kind of focus. We feel like we are in that moment at this point for young people. And when we talk about young people's duties of taking leadership in every space and sphere, they must have the right also to decision making and then. Or if we talk about young people's duty to promote fraternity and social harmony, we also have to then create enabling spaces where young people will discover self and their worlds. We want young people to volunteer and proactively engage in social change, but then we also need for young people to have livelihood opportunities of their choice. And so if we look at this kind of framework as a partnership between young people and others, such that it is, we're sort of shaping together the future that we all want to see, but also experiencing the now. So young people their voice, their agency, their decision-making, their leadership is not the future. Otherwise, young people are always in waiting. You're always in waiting because you're seen as the future. It is in the present, it is in the now, and that discovery, therefore, of the self and of your agency has to also be in the now. And that's a responsibility I vest in young people. And as someone who works with young people, I take the responsibility to create the spaces that make it possible. So I hope that more and more young people like yourselves sort of can come out and do that. It's really inspiring because we see it across the world, and you guys have been talking about movements being led by young people, and we know that that really is where transformation lies. Here's to every young person who is transforming the world, and here's to every space that is enabling young people to be able to do that.
Thank you so much. It was really, just very inspiring to be here. So thank you so very much for the opportunity, and all the best to all of you. Good luck, everyone. I'll hang around for a bit silently.